Daniel.
How are you?
I'm doing well today. How's it going on this Monday?
I'm good. How's the weather in Houston? Humid?
You know it is. It's Houston, right? It's so interesting. Are you a father, by the way?
I'm father now.
Okay, I was gonna say Happy Father's Day, but Happy Father's Day to the dads in your family then, because my Father's Day weekends are usually busy because my son was born on June 15th, which was yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And
So you're like a bad woman.
oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Listen, I'm lucky to be moving today because we had we had my son's birthday party on Saturday. He's 9, so we had a crazy pool party extravaganza, which he loved. We were all extremely tired, and like the party started at 3. Our cousins, because family likes to stick around, right? Didn't leave till after midnight.
Oh, wow. That's a linger. Yeah.
So it was fun, but and then we did Father's Day yesterday. So yeah, so actually my husband took off today, which he deserves. But I'm doing some things. So anyway, just it's so good to connect with you, Daniel. I've heard your name in spaces, and I'll tell you why. But I was talking to my good friend Glenn about some things, and he's like, "Oh, I know Daniel Warner." I was like, "Will you please connect me with him?" I think we can, because I wanted to obviously introduce myself to you and kind of share what I've been working on. And I do think there may be some mutual benefit, and you can tell me that from just where our dots can connect. But I'll let you know, and again, I think Glenn introduced me as one of the HISD Board of Managers, so it has been an amazing ride. Really, just truly, the way I put it, it's just a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, this has never been done before. We'll see if it can be duplicated, right? Like, we are all in. My personal history is my kids are 4th generation HISD students, Daniel. So, like, extremely personal and, very important to myself and my family. So it was such an honor to serve. I gotta say, some recent changes happened. So 4 of us rolled off, and they rolled a new 4 in. And I think it was pretty timely because of some of the things that I've found myself being pulled into and focusing on. Talked to the commissioner about some of the things I'm moving forward with, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I think that's great. Let us know how we can support you." So really, Daniel, I'll just kind of tell you what has happened is, because I was on the board of managers, I had a lot of my networks coming to me and saying, "Hey, Cassandra, what's up with this ESA program? Like, do you know anything about it?" And I was really hands off because I was so tied into what was going on with HISD, and I was like, "Oh, I haven't had time to research, And so once I did have time to research, and I started getting pulled into kind of like town halls or kind of these smaller panels, just trying to educate folks, and by folks I mean parents, pastors, a lot of faith-based leaders are wondering, about things because they already have established accredited churches. So they're really trying to understand what's going on. And so I just really found myself wanting to help folks understand, what's been done so far, right? Because there's still rulemaking going on. But just I felt it was important because there was so much, again, being an HISD, I understand the distractions.
Right.
And like the noise. And I was like, hey, let's stop that. We're here, and let's figure out what the opportunity is. And so that's what I kind of found myself is helping educate folks. I sit on the board of a private school, a predominantly Black Christian private school here in Houston. So they really kind of appreciate my HISD expertise and then kind of what I'm trying to do now. They're about 110 students. Again, HISD is almost 200,000. So I'm excited about I can wrap my hands around this one. But really, Daniel, again, your name came up because, I understand that, Odyssey is obviously a proven platform. I've looked at the website. I love it. I feel like, because I've kind of done some research for some other websites. Odyssey's so nice, It's clean, right? So I've been on the other few, and again, I just wanted to kind of take the opportunity to talk to you and to see, what can I tell families and communities about how Odyssey helps, bring this whole thing to them?
Yeah, and so thank you for the question. And just a little bit more background about me before we 4 was with the speaker. Then February kind of rolled around, new speaker, everyone's their own people, which makes sense. So I was happy to go. I invested my pension last fall, so I was.
Congrats.
Yeah, that was the one thing, right?
For sure.
Us public, service folks now, that is the only benefit in this whole, real, world, whatever. So I kind of fell into this. I've been working around this ESA policy the last 8 years of my life, kind of thing, different durations.
Wow.
So I used to work before I was in the Speaker's office, work with Senator Larry Taylor from Friendswood, and so got to do House Bill 3 with him and do everything on that side of the Senate. Before that, I worked with Senator Seller from Amarillo, did really started in the higher education space, then did more public education space.
Okay.
And I worked around the budget, doing all higher institutions, all head prep, teacher prep stuff, whatever. So this is one of the many things that kind of fell into my lap over the years. Before I left, this is basically, I had written the bill for them, kind of, that I was like, go forth, be married, kind of thing.
Good.
So anyway, to your point, so we're one of the organizations, so right now we operate in 5 different states that run ESA programs. So so we run the Iowa program, which is the fastest growing program, which we'll probably see back almost $500 million flow through that this upcoming year. This will be year 3 of that implementation. This upcoming fall, well, this year we launched both in Georgia and Louisiana on the same day, actually. So we're doing both of those this school year. We have the Wyoming one, which will go live next fall. Oh no, this fall, excuse me, but it's 2,000 students,
Oh.
high school,
Okay.
And so, and then actually more recently, those 4, and then we actually just took over the Utah contract.
Okay.
Which is interesting. So that was ACE scholarships originally had it. They subcontracted with Class Wallet, and their technology was just not where it needed to be. You had kids that were enrolling in public school and in this program, which was against the law, and it was up to us, what we call the EAO, to kind of make sure, right, we assume the responsibility for ensuring compliance, and that's in our contract, kind of thing. But that wasn't us.
Okay.
So now we're at the juncture of the rulemaking side, but really we're waiting for this RFP to drop from the comptroller's office.
Sure.
And so we were told beginning of this month, and now we're hearing next week. And so I think from our and we're not allowed to talk to the comptroller anymore because they issued a did you see the pre-RFP?
The pre-solicitation. Mm-hmm.
So just for folks to get a heads up, kind of where that's at, and obviously, I was kind of hired to do day-to-day of this stuff.
Sure.
And so we're hearing moving in the positive direction. But, I think that what stands us apart from the different kind of providers in this space, I would say, is that we were built. Our founder and CEO is a former teacher, went to law school. He was a charter school guy, started at KIPP, went to Duke undergrad, went to Notre Dame Law, and kind of figured out, this is his second startup. He was doing more pods and micro schooling during COVID. So we've only been COVID era. We've only been around for about 4 years, basically.
Okay.
So still in the earlier stages. And so really what our method was, and actually, let me share my screen. I'll just give you a little presentation.
Oh, wonderful.
Just
I'd love to. Yeah.
What exactly? And so basically, he came up with, especially from the 21st century, this was a really we're really a tech company that specializes in bringing educational people together. And so basically, you see that?
Sure.
Okay, great. So basically, this is kind of what we did our pitch the last time we were at our folks. So our company's based in New York.
Okay.
I'm the only one that's really in Texas, and really the only person that's dedicated full-time, boots on the ground. Like, there are other people, once we have the contract in the state, that will run implementation on the state level, like whether Louisiana or Georgia or whatever.
Okay.
And so basically, this is kind of just like, a little snapshot of what we do. We really want to make sure the technology is scalable. And that's what our issue is, the kind of going through that. So for example, when we launched Louisiana and Georgia in the same day, we had about 30,000 applications in between those 2 states, and we were able to determine the eligibility of those. 28,000 of them within 5 seconds.
So let me ask you this, because again, and I'm so intrigued by this part, because my most recent corporate job was at Accenture, so I love talking the tech part. So how are you all able to? So do you Is it final eligibility or is it kind of like a pre, right? Because the verification.
Right, it depends on the program, right?
Okay.
So we have a Louisiana program, for example, where they said first come, first serve. Texas is not going to do that because we can determine eligibility based on your income threshold.
Right.
So there could be an open enrollment period of, let's say, probably either probably 2 of 6 weeks or a long one, because one, you have students that are reapplying that are in the private school states to begin with, which matches up that calendar. So that means
Right.
probably your February 15th to your end of March window. But then you have a whole bunch of, more importantly, I think to the governor's point and the legislative leadership point, you have a whole bunch of folks who are not done with the school year yet at the end of March, who parents need to decide at the end of the school year whether they want to re-enroll or not, right? So ideally, so for example, like Louisiana, they only have one application window. Georgia does it quarterly. So
Oh.
so basically, but the state, the law does not prescribe how many application windows, but these are the things that Comptroller needs to say. Like, but if you want to capture this whole swath of public school students, you need to wait till the end of May. You need to wait till over the summer. So what we do, and I'll kind of show you on the next slide what the application might look like for a parent, but I'll do this real quick. We're going to show a quick snapshot of our company, just our leadership, and then this is just more kind of just our tree of folks and whatever. So these are the ones we operate in right now.
Nice.
So the top 5 are the 5 ESA programs, and the bottom ones are just programs. So like some were just pop up during COVID. The Utah one was still active, and Idaho, Utah and Missouri are still active. Nebraska, what they did, this legislature passed the ESA law. Then they had 7 days, and we had 7 days to implement it, basically, to get all the applications in, because then their state had a referendum to overturn it. So that's one of the few ones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they outlawed it, but we had to get all the money out the door because the legislature wanted it done.
Wow.
So basically, this is a snapshot of what we do. So unlike other companies, I would say, they basically will only do one portion of this kind of thing. So we do the application processing, then we use the verify your identity to determine that. So 4 of the 5 states we operate in right now, they have their own kind of state income tax. So what we do as a tech company, we use an API with their internal database just to determine eligibility. Just say what's your address and what's your social or ITIN. So that way we can get it. So all we do is pick their database, so we determine that within 5 seconds of their eligibility.
Okay, so that would be the difference for Texas.
So correct. Right. And so Wyoming right now, which doesn't have one as well, we make them upload a W-2. So basically about 90 to 95% we're able to use this API software. Then about 5 or 6% of it it'll either be like a military family or you moved within the last year, so your ITIN number or your social won't match up with your address. So then we just ask for a document upload, and that's a whole bunch of things. And that is also automated as well. So we still use the automated technology even for those document uploads as well. Only about 1% doesn't require manual review. Our competitors, which just makes it scalable enough to do it in 24 hours, or to try to process these applications. So you have like Students First, for example, they require manual review. ClassWall, they require manual review. So everyone that's like their EAO has to look at it, but then the state also has to look at it and determine eligibility. But the state assumes that the company does everything right, and then they find out they don't, right? But then, right, so then we use that eligibility for an API to determine that. So then there'll be a window basically that will just either say you're verified or eligible, basically. And then once that window closes, whatever the comptroller will say, then we'll issue notices that we want the award or not want the award, basically, because we also have to you have to do the prioritization model, and then you have to run a wait list if there's anyone else in that last tier, basically, as well.
I hear you.
So then we run the digital wallet as well. We do this all internal, no subcontracting, no nothing. So we will partner with a bank, basically, to have the state send over the funds to like a JP Morgan or Texas Capital or something. We'll park the funds there, and then we will notify the bank as an administrator to go and send the funds to a private school or a vendor in X, Y, and Z. And then we also curate a full-on marketplace that looks like Amazon, that is not third-party, that everything's there. So part of it too, during the launch with the award, we work with local communities, and we will deploy. We'll do a whole business development strategy. How do we get pathologists on there? How do we get tutors on there? How do we get local driver's ed? Everything that can be an allowable excuse. We want the marketplace to be the most robust.
Gotcha.
And also so that's the thing too, because there's no reimbursements in this model, right?
That's right.
So we think to be paid up, you need to load the marketplace with everything one. So parents know what's available. Computers, uniforms, everything that's in here. And so we have an API with Amazon as well. So everything that's eligible, so we go down to the SKU level as well on everything. So we're able to, so anyway, so that's basically why you need also one person to run all these accounts. You can't have a fragmented system where you have one application management who can, and then you have all these different logins for the families, then it just gets kind of out of hand.
Yeah.
So then we do processing, and we use usually Stripe or ACH transfer kind of thing to send the money. And so we'll do that, so we send Amazon, 2, 3 things. That's a bigger one, but like, local school pathologists, we'll just send a banking account with them really, really quick.
Nice.
And so, so we do customer services all in-house and in the United States too. And we'll also deploy with a local customer service team. And then we have, a whole bunch of bilingual professionals. It's basically 12 hours customer support service around the clock, 7 days a week. And then, so we work with, the service providers and the schools to basically get everyone on board for essentially. And then these are kind of just like what we kind of park ourselves on being differentiated is that the ID verification on the technology that's scalable. Because I think a lot of the concerns that you day one launch, if this is the biggest day one launch in the history of the country,
right.
You have to process 100,000. So like for example, when we did Louisiana, we had to basically up our hardware and software at our end to make sure that we were getting bot attacks, things like that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then the interesting thing too is that we find that 86% parents apply on their phone, which is very interesting.
You know what? That was when I started educating myself. I was like, there's got to be a mobile system because not everybody just has internet at home or a computer.
Right. I mean, especially for targeting these folks who don't have these. If it's meant for these people who do not have computers at home to begin with a bit whatever. So as long as you get internet connection, you can use any. Our software works on anything. It looks like whatever. And then this is kind of like a snapshot of what like our marketplace looks like.
Nice.
So
nice.
So you kind of add to cart, and you can basically the parent. So when you go to apply, I'll show you. You could allow like basically multiple kids. You can apply multiple of your students in your family at the same time. So one parent, one login, and then actually here it says available balance right there. That's at the household level. So when you check out, you just have to assign it to a kid kind of thing. So this is usually a bigger number. So it's like, oh, this, and then in this we can also, one, customize to say whatever you want to say, but two, the customization is, let's say you only let me buy one piece of computer every other year.
Yeah.
So even though you might put it in your cart every year, we won't let you check out because you'll say, okay, the system says you already built that. Basically.
That's huge.
And then, the audits are pretty good. We will basically show, basically our internal data system, the comptroller have a copy, anyone that really wants to have a copy. And then this is kind of our snapshot in Iowa, 10,000 applicants, 24 hours, and so it's the scale.
And that one was recent, right? Daniel, when was Iowa?
Yeah, this upcoming fall will be the 3rd year.
Okay.
So the growth there is pretty, so which is pretty crazy too. In Texas, they're expecting between, at most 5% of the population, school age, that would enroll in this. Iowa's close to 10, which is very interesting. So it's the 60, if the parents want it, right? So what are you going to say? And so it's pretty interesting.
That's interesting. Okay.
Especially for rural, yeah. And then this kind of what the state would see too. So we're able to look at real-time data, or whoever, and then look at how many we processed, how many have been approved, so we can look at a heat map where these students are applying as they're applying kind of thing. And then we can say where are the providers, and they just kind of be like, we need to deploy more here, we need to deploy more there. So it's pretty interesting as we break it down with that, yeah.
Okay.
And this is just kind of what we got to walk away with, just to avoid in other states where they've had to cancel their vendors.
Yeah.
And just kind of, outdated tech. We run, like handing over files of Excel. We kind of find that to be bad. Closed out. If you have any more questions on this?
That's great. I did have a question about Iowa, just because I'm interested, just particularly about their program. And what I love about the EAOs is the amount of data that you guys can collect and really be able to gather insights that can inform policy, parents, like all the things. So for Iowa, like you said, so what they were anticipating 5% and it's 10. Can you, at a high level, if you are aware of just where the data shakes out, was it actually going to private school? Was it homeschool? Was it micro schools? Do y'all have it segmented?
So the Iowa program is unique that it only allows to pay for tuition first and then kind of expenses. So I don't even know that homeschools are eligible.
I hear you.
I
Okay.
need to do that double check because the first initial launch of the program, it was just for tuition first and any leftover money you can use it on the marketplace. So their marketplace, I think, expanded a little bit, but their marketplace is getting a little bit bigger recently. But like again, we could do whatever kind of state kind of decides. But it's interesting you say because Utah, for example, I think 80%, 80, are homeschooled in the program.
And how much is their program? You remember the number?
Let me see, because it's going to be, what's up here? Right, so $120 million for 10,000 students, but I think they recently reduced their homeschool amount to be lower than the traditional ESA amount because they have, again, a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in it because they're allowing reimbursements, but parents were applying ski lift passes for the season and calling it PE. And you're like, well, I don't know that that's educational in nature. I'm not saying a one-day lift pass might not be, whatever.
It's like a field trip, but the
$1,000
season.
season ski pass, I don't know that the legislature intended. But that was a problem when you do have a reimbursement model and the comptroller is not there for approving or whatever on the front end, and these are all educational in nature.
That's
kind of
okay. So yeah, that's the part. Again, I'm kind of like a data nerd, so I love, and that is one thing I actually appreciated about just education in general. There is so much data to make informed decisions. I mean, we have student outcomes, we actually have money, we actually have budgets, and it's all so I just really appreciate just the transparency of what you guys are doing because it's so important.
And the comptroller will have access to all of the internal systems that we have. We give them admin access. So I mean, like,
That's right.
So like I don't have the application window for the demo part, but like the whole tech behind it, there's a real-time log and everything, so parents can call and say, where am I at in the process? That kind of thing.
So good.
I'm gonna show you this.
While you're pulling that up, Daniel.
Yeah.
So who are you hearing the comptroller's gonna be?
I heard Kelly Hancock. That's what we heard.
Kelly Hancock. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard so many names. And again, there's so many good people, right? But it's just like, who wants to do it, right?
Yeah, I heard Hancock's making the announcement this week, so we'll see.
Oh, good.
Create an account scheme.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what you would see. Like you just log into odyssey.com. Pretty easy, right? And then this basically says this is what you're signing up for. We always link the program eligibility requirements to it, just to say, just so you know, this is what you're signing up for. This is what this means, yada yada. So we put it all on the parent and whatever, and click start application. And then this is how simple it is, right? So you have parent first name, everything here will be pre-populated. Then this is where we confirm the address. And then the next page is the actual application. And so this will be just the
I'm still at the vendor account screen.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I was following your words, but I was like, oh, okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So this is what the parent would see. And then just kind of then we link all the program eligibility requirements to the parent application so they know basically we can say, because here's the part too that the field's worried about, is that we also need to basically say, this is not your application to your private school. And that is going to be a very, very big departure from the old system. And I think the private schools, the Catholic schools, need to adapt a little bit because, again, for those parents who aren't applying until the end of the summer, saying, I don't want to send my kid back here at a public school, that they'll need that extra window. I know traditionally for the private school, right, you have them applying in winter, basically, January, February. So for that window, that checks out, right? So
Yeah.
And but like really, parents who you want to get it to, they don't really know yet.
Well, especially those new parents, right? Those new private who have never had to apply. Yeah.
Who won't know, and just getting word of it and that kind of thing. So this is kind of what the parent would see here, just kind of filling it out. It's only 5 slides, so it's pretty basic information.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where kind of the students, this is how simple it is for the student. And this is where you would add another student if you had more than one in your family.
Okay.
Which we think is a big deal just because you don't want more confusion, more more logins, worse for the customer, right?
That's
so
right.
have one login, one-stop shop. That's pretty easy. And this is where you would provide your social or your I-10.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does have citizen, immigration status on there now because that's part of the law, which is neither here nor there. But this is one of the ways we say without making it overt. These are the only two ways that we know you're illegal: either your social security number or you pay your taxes. That's really it, right? And so if you have one of those two indicators, the rest of the conversation should go pretty easy.
Right.
This kind of where we can confirm with that you're attesting to all the application, and then we'll do email communication, text, phone call if there's any kind of reaching out that we'll have with the parent here. And then these we use basically with any kind of the Attorney General's office, basically saying like, you agree to all these terms basically.
Mm-hmm.
So if you both found that you're violating or you're out of the program, you can refer to criminal court, X, Y, and Z. And then that's it. The parent signs, and that's the application. And then it'll turn to this, and it'll say verified or eligible. We can make whatever this says because this is what this is so verified, and then that's when you start the process of selecting the school you want to go to.
And so at what point does Odyssey know that little Daniel actually has a spot at a private school? How does
We wouldn't know. So basically, so when you get to that school, so basically what happens is that we set up every school that's on the platform as well. They'll create their own account. So, but basically, when the parent goes to select school, then the school will have to, on their end, will say enroll student. They'll click enroll student, and that's how they know that the school agreed to take that kid. And we have a real time of that too. So it's like, okay, great. And for whatever reason, let's say, hey, I want to write St. Mark's, and St. Mark's like, you didn't even apply. What are you talking about? St. Mark's is saying did not enroll, yada yada. So then it'll bounce back to the parent and to Odyssey saying the school did not agree, and then kind of we'll reach out to the parent can email the school did not confirm your enrollment.
Right. And in the case of, like, when we think about how Texas is going to be set up, in the case that, right, like little Daniel is not admitted to St. Mark's, but he has money kind of earmarked for him, and he's just going to go back to his local school choice ISD. What happens to his, so is that wait list then what we're looking at now?
So basically, yeah. So that's what, so if the enrollment, that's what saying, hey, you're off the wait list. Like actually, I didn't get into St. Mark's, didn't do whatever, not in the homeschool, not whatever. That's when we'll say, hey, the next person, I know it's late in the year, but if the school still wants to take you, you're off the list, kind of thing. That's how we that, and that's in real time too. So the parent decides. But that's another thing for the comptroller also too. Is like, this is just really, really the weeds. But like, let's say you have a kid that enrolls in the fall, and that first 6 weeks, not for him, not for the kid.
Yeah.
And so then it's the balance of the funds, right? The balance of the funds gets remitted to the state, and you say, okay, you're not in it this year, but like the school keeps the money because that was the agreement, right? So it's just a lot of, or it's like you start school, let's say you start in a private school, and the parents like, actually, we're going to disenroll. It's not great. I'd rather homeschool. But now you have a TSA that's meant for private schools at 10.5 and a homeschool that's for 2. What happens with that delta? And the parent goes, I'm done. You're out of your money because that first quarter payment was $2,000, right? So now you're changing your classification. So I think there's a lot of little things that the comptroller needs to work out on their end on the rulemaking. We can do whatever, but it's like, but we again just are that middleman between because the comptroller's office and any of the state office that we dealt with does not have the internal tech experience to run these scales.
Correct. Absolutely. No, this is so informative, Daniel. I thank you. Do you have a hard stop right now, or you got a few more minutes, or? Okay, I was just gonna say, this is so informative, and because I'm also so again, I'm convening with some faith-based leaders in Houston, because one thing that is clear to me as I look at this, that we have a supply problem, right? And that is not Odyssey's problem, right? Because you guys are just the conduit to make sure all this happens.
Great. Whoever wants to apply, no problem. Let's match you together.
That's right. And so one thing, because it's all about the education though to the community, right? It's just like they are like, because again, there's so much noise. A lot of people feel like it's not for me. It is for me. It is for me. I can, I have some friends who do very well and send their children to private school already, and they're very shy about talking about, hey, is this voucher for me? And I'm telling them, it's for you too. Like, and but it's this, it's a stigma, it's a confusion. We just got to get clarity, because of all the campaigning for and against. We got to move past that. And so that's kind of where I'm just trying to make sure that I get the facts, the details, the rules, what is going to happen, so I can explain it. And so I think that this is great. There's also a piece, that I'm just to kind of let you know that I'm kind of interested in with the comptroller, and that's kind of they say it's the promotion and advertising piece, but again, I think of it as educating, the community. And I haven't seen that pre-solicitation bid come out, and I'm not sure. Are you aware? Like, are they gonna?
That was lumped in there with the other.
I thought so.
We just a little marketing arm, so it's like we're actually, between us, we're trying to find like a statewide marketing company to go in with us on the RFP to say because it's like we can do local, marketing. We can come to Houston, we can go sit with Colleen Dipple. We can say like, this is how you apply. Schools, you have a question, you call us. Parents, yada yada. But like this is going to be like almost like an Obamacare rollout Medicaid, every year kind of thing, right? Like that's the scale. This is your enrollment period, basically, right? We hear it every December for every January, right? Like this is the window. This is the window. That's what it's going to have to be, something like that.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, you need to find a center right marketing firm to do it, right? Because you have a lot of. I met with a firm last week who does the lottery commission, who does the lottery, which is like similar kind of a statewide whatever. And because TDA doesn't have a marketing budget, they do everything internal basically. And so I'm like, well, they're like, well, so a lot of people on our firm have concerns about this. I was like, who cares if you have concerns? It's a long plan now. You think marketing companies that were capitalistic, the Humanas of the world didn't want to say go go sign up for your MCO, your healthcare.
That's right.
Money's out the door. Like, so that's the part now where we're trying to who's this firm? And like we don't got a good one, we won't go in with a good one. But I think, and then again, I don't know if that money is also included in that cap for how much you can spend on the admin, or if the marketing budget is outside of what we.
Well, what I read, and again, this is just my interpretation. I felt like when looking at the bill, it was outside, but.
That's how I felt too. I was like, it was outside. It was not under the EAO breakdown. It was under the comptroller may engage the marketing campaign and full stop period.
Yeah.
So I think for everyone's sake, I think we'll get the regular TBF roadshow back on again and getting parents signed up regionally.
Yeah. So that's good. So I do know this is very helpful, and I'm actually going to be participating in the TBPF Juneteenth symposium this week here in Houston. And I think I'm going to have an opportunity to speak. We're going to watch a movie and just kind of sit on the panel just because of my perspective with some of the community and the sentiment. I also have a town hall on Friday because, again, there's this group of people who want to talk solutions, right? And just have conversations. So they're like, Cassandra, can you just come and explain it to our... I said, absolutely. Like, that's what I want to do because this is an opportunity and I don't want folks to miss it because of something that's not real because we're here.
Yeah. There's money to be had, right? There's real, and so, and I will say, because I've been watching, just like Families in Power do this and whatever, and it's a lot still up in the air. So I think, like whenever you're talking to people, like this is how we think it's going to be done, but this is what the law prescribes for. We still don't know the rules, and I think that it's like, we're meeting with the Catholics, and they're like, some of our schools are saying we want this amount of enrollment, and I go, you really can't bank your enrollment on something that you don't know that those students are your students yet, or they're coming here. Like we want, they're like, we want 800 new kids enrolled in school. And I go, you can do that on your own, but don't rely on the ESA to hold them.
That's right.
So I think the segment of the conversation that's a little lost-ish.
That's right. No, I hear you. No, this has been super helpful. And Daniel, I hope we can stay in touch because I really, I've talked to a lot of folks. Colleen and I have talked. We sat down. I've talked to Leo Lindbeck. He and I have had conversations.
Somebody writing recently?
Of course. Of course.
It seems so. Like I spoke to the governor's office and the comptroller's office because she had two posts on Monday and Wednesday last week, and then one on Friday.
when I had a conversation with him, and it was so funny. That Mars one was hilarious. He's like, "We're going to Mars," and it's funny because I talked to him, and I again kind of just told him because I met with Colleen, and when I talked to the commissioner and also I know you know Stacy Hawk.
Yeah.
So when I had conversations with both, and they're like, "Man, Cassandra, you should talk to Leo. He's got some interesting ideas." And it's like, and I did, and he's very, and he even said, he's like, "I'm not trying to be critical," and I was like, "Well, I mean, like, we're here, so," and he's just like, "Oh, I just think it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be so messy." I was like, "Okay, it's."
Well, like, yeah, I mean, like, talk about messy. Like, so the Tennessee launched theirs, like a competitor did theirs there, but like they had parents waiting for 290 minutes before they even got to the application. Like, talk about tech that doesn't work.
Oh my God.
And so I get it for those people. Yeah, you want, and so like they wanted this to get launched for this school year, which you can't do.
So, right, so what is, and if you can share, so what is Leo's view of Odyssey? Do you know?
Of what?
Of Odyssey, like, and how you guys are set up programmatically.
He comes from the camp. One, he knows who we are and what we do, and two, he comes from the camp. Like, so there's a movement to get everyone a debit card, like an EBT card to go to.
I don't like that.
It allows for all this waste, fraud, and abuse. It allows for all these things, and so basically, we tell them we can do that, right? But we also, what you do is that you can deny it based on what store you're going to, right? So, but let's say you want to go to Best Buy and buy a computer, right? But you go in and walk out, but you go in and walk out on a television that's 90, like that's a 65-inch TV. We can't deny that transaction. You can't deny it to the SKU level on the credit card.
Mm-hmm.
You could do it on online marketplace, which also that's how most people shop anyway, right? And so like Leo, I think, is just so stuck in his ways that he wants all this to be done right and where. And it's like, and I do think there's a little bit that he was wrong about the 2-year private, or 2 years in existence before opening in school. He was wrong about who pushed that. He said the charter school. He said the private school and Catholic schools pushed it. That's not the case at all. It was from the House members who didn't want pop-up, schools to come out of this, but it kind of stifles innovation a little bit when you have, micro schools and whatever that are coming out of state. But it's not clear. It says 2 years operational in the state. It doesn't say that. It just says 2 years operational.
Mm.
So like, what's the comptroller is smart will say it just says 2 years operation. It doesn't say 2 years in Texas, and then allow for these out-of-state providers who have experience doing it in other states or under a different umbrella to kind of do it. But that's gonna be a push and pull that needs to be out.
Yeah.
But I think that Leo is just, right? Leo's the one who's Colin's biggest donor, funder.
Yeah.
So like, you can't like get sideways. Then it's like, Colleen, this is your guy. Come get your guy. You're the one on one hand saying what a great program it's going to be, and we're really excited, Colleen. And then it's going to come out next year, and then your guy is saying, what are we doing here? What's the point? So
Well, when I was talking to Leo, some of his critiques.
Yeah.
And again, I know he's a construction guy. Obviously, he's very smart, and his subjects are well thought out. But a lot of his critiques, I was thinking in my brain, AI takes care of that, technology takes care of that. Like, there are already solutions for some of the stuff.
It's like they're like, can you actually handle 100,000 applications? Oh, like, we can. We have the ability to do that. I don't know if the other people do. We have the problem. We have things to turn it off and go forth. Like, we met with the Lieutenant Governor's office like the Tuesday after we launched in Georgia and Louisiana, and we just had our computer open, looking at the people just applying and so we started our meeting was one number. We ended and then Marion, I don't know Marion at all in the Lieutenant Governor's office.
No. I know Marion should in Commissioner's office.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we were just showing her, like, opening the number screens, like, yeah, it's real time. Like, you will know exactly where these kids are, what their income threshold is, where they're coming from, what kind of school they want to go to.
Yeah.
Private they want to go to. We know all that stuff as they apply. And we'll know all their demographics too. So like when you go through that, like part of the law says we have to check for race, ethnicity, all those kinds of things. We'll go have that in our application process because you have to do it on the front end because you can't ask them like
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And so we've scaled the tech to basically say every quarter, we'll have a re-enroll button. Do you want to do this again for the next quarter? If you don't, great, we're taking the money back. So things like that, where you have more parent engagement, where the tech works and the tech's scalable.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. No, this is super helpful, super good. Let's definitely keep in touch. Colleen and we kind of talked about collaborating on some stuff. I think we could benefit from maybe again as we don't want to confuse parents either. So as we get further along the line, I think to your point, Odyssey will be around to talk to families and to educate folks. I mean, again, I sit on the board of a private school. Would love to have you guys there because 50% of our parents currently get subsidies from Texas Workforce Commission to pay for tuition. So they're really, wanting their children to be in private school and actually, really sacrificing to do so.
Right. And then, I think it's there, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse, and so, like, we're happy to, help, but it's just like, we probably wouldn't start our rollout campaign until we got kind of green light from, the Commonwealth.
Of course.
Here it's all done, and then I will, and our team will like, go around statewide, like, what kind of questions do you have? And then we'll just do demos upon demos upon demos, showing administrators, showing how this works, getting people onboarded.
Yeah.
And then we also have a separate, support team just for schools as well. So that, let's say there's a whole like 40 families having the same issue that's on the school side.
Yeah.
We'll just call the school and say, go fix this, X, Y, and Z, and then call the families to come in. So we try to really streamline kind of operations as we kind of exist.
For sure, and especially for rollout year, right? Like it's a ramp up and on all the things. So thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate your time, and let's stay in touch.
Questions about like our other program, like how Louisiana's run, or what that looks like, or Georgia. Georgia's a much eligibility is much thinner. It's like you have to be in a family school, that kind of thing, and so they have a much more strict kind of ESA rollout. But like Louisiana's is pretty similar to
what's going to happen.
Yeah, and just if there's like data around, how many do we have applied? What does that look like? That kind of thing, and just kind of our ramp up period to that. Because we also find like the reason in Georgia wasn't as high is that there's 4 enrollment periods, and Texas wanted to do 4 enrollment periods, and so we could open our application every 4 years, but there's no rolling amount of money, and so
That's right.
You're awarded for the year, so maybe twice a year do we do? I don't know, so that's up for someone else.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, thank you, sir. It's so good to know you. Like I said, I've been around and I've heard your name, so I'm so glad to connect with you.
Awesome. It was great.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye.